I am Professor Greg White. I am a former Olympian in modern pentathlon, exactly the same as James. And since that time, I have studied for undergraduate, postgraduate, postdoctoral degrees in human performance. I now continue to be an athlete, but I also run a specialist centre on Harley Street in London, where I look after the performance of Olympic gold medalists all the way through to cancer sufferers to optimise their quality of life and optimise their performance.
Hey, I'm James Greenwell. I'm the Managing Director of Protocol, but I'm also an athlete competing still in the sport of modern pentathlon and all the feeder sports around it, from biathlon, triathlon and the full modern pentathlon. Been competing now for my 20th year for Great Britain in the sport. Compete all around the world, love sport, love the people around the sport, and keen sponsor of the Modern Pentathlon Association as well. So, my first recollection of Greg, we were at the National Junior Modern Pentathlon Championships. It was held in Wantage in 1987, and it was my first ever competition, and we were going through the fencing event, and we're about halfway through the fence, and I was going around with two of the guys from the army, Gunnar Kim Lee and Mike Hurst, and it was dragging on a bit, a couple of hours into the fence, and then just before the fencing umpire announced the next round to commence, this gentleman grabbed the microphone and burst into a sort of, "You've lost that loving feeling." And that was my first experience of you, mate.
I'm not sure you had lost that loving feeling, but...
No, I don't think I had at all at the time, you know.
It's a long time ago, a very long time ago. So we've been friends for a very long time. In fact, we then went on to compete internationally together. And have remained close friends, very good friends, because I think we share a common goal, and that is to enhance our performance, and that has now spilt over into enhancing as many people's performances that we can to help others achieve what they can, and also to experience the incredible things that we've experienced. I'm a swimmer. I mean, I'm a swimmer by background. I started my athletic career as a swimmer. Into modern pentathlon, I was sort of known as the swimmer in modern pentathlon. And in fact, now I continue to swim heavily. I particularly love open water swimming. That's really where I love being. But I race for Wickham District Swimming Club, the best masters swim club in the country. And we race all around the UK and actually all around the world still.
I guess over the years, coming back into the sport of modern pentathlon, the key thing is actually overloading my body. So we've done a lot of work in the water on drill discipline to actually take away the breaking yourself every single session in the running and the swimming, to be fair, but actually working on the drill technique and actually improving my technique, the discipline of the swim, and actually just being able to churn out the mileage session after session without actually breaking yourself. And I think that's the key thing for me as I've got older, because the body just doesn't physically take what we used to when we were back in the Olympic days.
And doesn't recover as quickly.
Certainly doesn't.
I mean, that's the key to it, really, actually.
Yeah, so I think a couple of highlights for me is, the first was Egypt last year in October, when I won my first world title in the sport of triathlon, which is shoot, swim, run, times 4, so 4 times around the circuit, part of the Modern Pentathlon Association, the global body of UIPM. That was my first world title, and that was definitely the highlight. But just a couple of weeks ago, going to Hungary and actually competing in the full Modern Pentathlon at the European Championships, and actually winning the European Championships was a massive high for me, especially because it delivered a lifetime personal best in the water, over a 50 front crawl in the team relay, and a Masters comeback over the 100. So for me, that was a real special event. Yeah.
Well, so recently I've gone ultra, I've gone long, and this year I competed in what they call the toughest triathlon on the planet. It's the Norseman Extreme Triathlon in Norway. That was back in August, and it was extreme, it was brutal. It was a great race though for me, 15 and a half hours of non-stop purgatory. But effectively within the race, there's a race within a race. What you're racing for is what they call the Norseman Black. It's the most sought after black t-shirt in all of sport. And you have to get in the top 160 to get that Norseman Black. I finished in the top 160, I got the Norseman Black. But I think the thing I'm proudest of is that I was the only athlete over the age of 50 who actually achieved a Norseman Black. So that was a real plus for me.
Well, yeah, YouPerform is a brand new brand, and it's linked with my background in business for the last 15, 16 years, of which is Protocol, the collagen experts. But YouPerform is something new, it's something specialist, and what we're looking at is taking the learning we've had with the Protocol brand and taking this into a sporting range that is much more open, much more targeted. So we're addressing elite age groupers like ourselves, but absolutely everybody who goes to the gym or just wants to go out and do a park run on a Saturday morning. There's loads of issues we've got with the aging processes which we're all struggling with. And this range is just about addressing some of those in a manner that can really help the general public.
I think that's a really important piece because I mean, one thing that I've done, I used to be the director of research for the British Olympic Medical Centre. My job was to enhance the performance of elite athletes. Since that time, I've now set up my own practice on Harley Street, the Centre for Health and Human Performance, in the sure and certain knowledge that what we do with elite athletes is exactly what we need to do with the general population. Anybody who's physically active can have their performance enhanced through the right bespoke approach, and nutrition underpins that approach. So I think that the key to this, that it is about those who are serious about performance, but it's actually about those that are serious about their health. Because YouPerform is about health from inside and out. It's not just about external beauty, it's about internal beauty, and it's about the health that's linked to that. And what we do with elite athletes is actually exactly the same as I do with the general population. In fact, it is exactly the same as I do with the clinical population, whether it's cancer, heart disease, pulmonary disease. The bottom line is that the physiology and therefore the nutrition that underpins that is exactly the same, molded in a bespoke way to the target audience to optimize their performance.
Well, you know what I'm seeing personally now is, especially on a weekday morning when I go and have a swim in the morning, I'm in with my club, Team Protocol, which is clearly the best masters club in the world.
Of course.
But we're seeing Team Protocol in there, we're seeing a couple of the other triathlon clubs, and for the opening mornings we're seeing maybe 20, 30, 40 athletes who are all my age or if not older, participating in swim training. But you're also seeing in the pool a growing number of people who want to be in there, be active. You see this every Saturday morning at the park runs, which are growing ever bigger and ever stronger. I think it's 15 years of park run just last weekend. But you're seeing hundreds and hundreds of people now taking responsibility for actually their health and well-being. And YouPerform is very much targeting the people who make a considered investment in their health and well-being and their fitness, whether they're just participating once or twice a week, but because they know they have to do something because they're getting older, or whether they're taking it that little step further and they're looking at an age group competition, or even trying to make an age group team for their county or their region or even Great Britain. So we're covering full spectrums, from the once or twice a week gym goers, your park runners, people are just knowing that the aging process is creeping up on them, right through to the people who actually want to see some performance and actually want to overcome that midlife crisis.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I mean, we currently reside in an era where the children of today are predicted to live shorter lives than their parents. That's the first time in the history of Homo sapiens. And what we have is the least active generation in history. So what we have is almost this inequality of activity, where actually there are groups within our population who are incredibly active, but equally there are groups. So for example, take 14-year-old girls, for example, is that less than 1 in 10, less than 10% of 14-year-old girls hit the WHO guidelines for physical activity for health. I mean, it's incredible. 9 out of 10 14-year-old girls, and in fact 8 out of 10 14-year-old boys don't reach the type of activities required to maintain their health. So I think part of what we're doing here is actually promoting that, because for me, parents are so important. actually is the middle ages where it really does matter. From a personal perspective, is that you're right, this idea of midlife crisis, or actually doing something about enhancing quality of life, enhancing performance in midlife. But equally, what those individuals are, what the middle age are, is that they're the shop window for young people. What they're doing is that they're selling the power of a physical active lifestyle. And I think crucial to that is actually what we're trying to do here is support that process, support through nutrition, that process of aging, so that we can optimize aging, optimize physical activity, and therefore optimize quality of life.
It's all about loading the body correctly. This time of year especially, it's about eating as clean as possible. I don't need excessive sugars. But I'm also looking at energy production and recovery from a cellular point of view. So for me, the two key areas here are green foods, because you get a high nutritional potency in your diet without the mass. I don't want the calorific value, because I'm watching my weight, because I'm obviously leading up to a major competition. And we live in an environment where it's the most overfed but undernourished population ever. We're making more food, we're producing more food through farming, a methodology of farming, fertilizers, pesticides and so on and so forth, but we're not actually getting the nutrients. So for me, it's really important about getting the vitamins and minerals into my diet that I need, which create energy, the spark plugs, but at the same time as repair, so taking enough protein to allow muscle synthesis and rebuilding and strength, but also giving myself enough energy to actually get through the daily training sessions that I'm pushing, and the nth degree of this is actually achieving my goals, which is optimum power and speed for where I am in my age group at the moment in time.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think one of the key problems that we have is that we've overcomplicated the area of nutrition. And I think now people just don't understand. What do I do? How do I do it? What do I eat? How much of it do I eat? And we're bombarded constantly about this aesthetic issue of obesity, that we have an obesity epidemic. Yes, we do. But I think the problem is that the education to draw people in the right direction when it comes to nutrition is lacking. And I think one of the passions of ours is to actually provide that information to allow people to make a much more informed choice about what they're doing. The bottom line is it's not rocket science. Invariably what we are talking about is we're talking about a healthy, balanced diet. And I think there are three rules that I talk about. One is a healthy, balanced diet. One is actually about eating the rainbow. And James talks about green foods, red foods, orange foods. It's about looking at the breadth of colour that you have on your plate. If your plate is beige, that gives you a good indication about your nutrient intake. Yeah. That's the bottom line. And I think the third thing is actually about making it yourself. I think if you make it yourself, if you make it from fresh, you know what is in that. And that makes a really big difference. So it hasn't got fixatives, it hasn't got additives, it hasn't got the sugar that we see constantly in just about every product we buy. So eat the rainbow, make it yourself, and eat fresh as often as you possibly can. And I think what we're trying to do here with You Perform is actually supplement that, is to support that. So if I think back to the Norseman, for example, the volume of training for an extreme triathlon like the Norseman is absolutely gargantuan. I mean, it was running at 40 hours plus a week on top of work, on top of family. And one of the things that impacts on is recovery. So for me, critical as part of that nutrition program were things like protein, because regeneration and recovery is absolutely crucial. If you're trying to put the volume of work in that you require for those type of events, recovery is key. And so much of what we often talk about is optimizing what are standard physiological processes. It's about preparation for sport, preparation for exercise. It's about performance during that exercise, and then critically it's about recovery. And I think one of the key things that we often talk about, and we are looking forward to educating others about, is this idea of periodised nutrition. The bottom line is not only are we trying to spread the load, trying to improve the nutrition that we have within our diet, but also to optimise it by targeting that if we are undertaking a very heavy exercise load, then what we need to do is fuel for that exercise load and make sure we recover from that exercise load. Equally, if you're on a rest day, the type of nutrition you need is very different. So it's actually about tailoring our nutrition, but critically for me, it's actually giving people the right information so they can make an informed decision, and then supporting it with U-Perform to optimize that nutrition on a daily basis.
Okay, so what we've done with the U-Perform range is look at some of the cornerstones of your nutritional program. What you actually need as you're getting older, whether you're an elite athlete, an age grouper, or whether you're just somebody who wants to go to the gym once or twice a week, we all suffer from the same issues. So we're looking at dividing it down into sort of the cornerstones. So what we've got is a collagen. Now, that's absolutely key because as we're getting older, we're all losing collagen. And whether it's through skin, through muscles, connective tissue, or even our bone density, collagen is absolutely prime as a structural building block effectively. We're also looking at the protein side of things because you need protein to keep your muscles strong. And as we get older, we're gonna get weaker effectively, so we're gonna lose our strength. And this is something that we need to train to keep there, but we need to supply our body with a really good source of protein. And when we talk about a good source of protein, there's multiple proteins available from the foods we eat in the supermarket, but what we're looking at is making it easier to get the higher level proteins into our diet. But we're also looking at things like convenience foods. So we're looking at green foods, superfoods. And within this barrier, we're looking at optimizing our intake of vitamins and our minerals and even our vegetable-based proteins, and starting to go towards antioxidants. And with this, what we're doing is we're underlying and making sure we're ticking the box on a daily basis, whether you're an age grouper training 3 or 4 hours a week, or whether you're somebody who's just doing an exercise and going down the gym once or twice a week. You still need to tick that box of fresh green foods into the diet. And then lastly, we're looking at our natural health, our mental health. So we're looking at the vitamin D, which we call the sunshine vitamin, and also our antioxidant potential, because the vitamins and the minerals we're getting from the food we have today is starting to deplete. And it's depleted because of the production methodology we're actually using in the developed world. But because we're needing that crop rotation 2 or 3 times per year rather than seasonal or even resting our fields, we're physically not getting that vitamin and mineral content into our diet, and that's having a knock-on effect with our health and well-being. So we're addressing the antioxidants, the green foods, the proteins, the vitamins that are essential for feeling good, and also the collagen, which is the structural building blocks of our body.
I mean, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think to some extent, when we talk about supplements, the general consensus is that, that's for people who are serious. It's for elite athletes. And we see that an awful lot. I mean, I've had the opportunity of working with some of the greatest athletes on the planet. And there is no doubt that there's a special requirement within that group who've got high volumes of training, who require very rapid recovery. But the interesting thing for me is actually it's the middle band, it's the gym goers. We've got this penchant now for high intensity interval training, incredibly damaging in a positive way. They are very, very tough sessions. So we've got people coming to the gym for a 45-minute session where they'll beast themselves for 45 minutes. The big difference here is that between elite athletes and that group of individuals is that they've got to go back to work, and they've got to go and look after the family, and they've got to clean the house, and et cetera, et cetera. They've got other things to do, and they're not being paid to do this. And so for me, it's actually that middle group where supplements become really valuable, because it is quite difficult to make sure that you're getting through your diet everything that you need. And for them, those people who are going to the gym 3-4 times a week, what we can do is we can optimize their nutrition with these additional supplements in very specific, very bespoke ways, where we're targeting things like collagen, we're targeting protein, we're targeting antioxidants, so that what we can do is we can optimize their nutrition, optimize their performance, and critically is optimize their quality of life.
Collagen effectively is the primary structural protein found in the body, and it's a key protein throughout the entire body. There's a misconception about the functionality of the collagen within the human being. We've all heard about it in the beauty industry for many, many years, because almost 90% of the skin's protein is actually collagen, and this has a direct impact on the aging process. The formation of lines and wrinkles and the change of skin elasticity across our entire body has an impact on collagen depletion in the body. So it's absolutely key for collagen in our skin as the largest organ. But where it's neglected is the functionality of collagen throughout the rest of the body. The demand on collagen in our connective tissue, our ligaments, our tendons and our cartilage, and our muscles as well, is absolutely key functionality for performance within the connective tissue and maintaining strength. So of really key importance if you're an athlete, obviously, to maintain your strength, maintain the robustness of the body, but actually just for everybody at home as they're getting older. The lack of muscular strength through the loss of collagen can result in some debilitating issues that we just link to the aging process. And this can be linked to the breakdown of the different types of collagen in the body. There's 14 major types of collagen in the body. And with YouPerform, we're addressing directly the type 1 and type 3. So that's the skin collagen. That's where we see the signs of aging, the lines, the wrinkles, things we all hate when we look in the mirror as we're getting older. And then the type 3 collagen, so our connective tissue. We're talking about the muscles, ligaments, tendons. And with the lack of collagen in these connective tissues, that's where you see the aging issues that we can actually feel. And that's really where we see the impact.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because backed onto that is actually protein. But I think what you talk about there really nicely is the aging process. And there are a whole host of things happen to us through aging, which some things we can't halt. So classically for women, it's menopause. Interesting enough, for men, we have this thing called somatopause, which occurs at a similar age to menopause, and it happens for men. And what we see with men is we see a fall in growth hormone and a fall in testosterone. So for both men and women, we see a falling muscle mass as we get past the age of about 35, 40, and that continues throughout life. Now, why does that matter? Well, it's absolutely crucial for functionality. So strength, power, and our functional capabilities are all linked to muscle mass. And that is also linked to protein. Of course, what's happening at that age as well is that during those middle ages, we eat very poorly because we're very, very busy. We don't really sit down as much as we used to. Add on top of that, as we start to age, as we move past our 6th decade and beyond, calorie consumption starts to fall. And because of that, protein consumption starts to fall. Now, with protein, what we need to do is we need to increase protein intake. But critically, we need high quality protein, those proteins which are linked to muscle mass. So things like leucine are very, very important. Things like whey protein are incredibly important because they deliver exactly what we need. So again, to some extent, what we're doing with nutrition and what we are targeting is actually making it bespoke for the individual. We're targeting key issues across the lifespan that are linked to physically active individuals and optimizing those particular areas to optimize structure, optimize aesthetic, but also to optimize quality of life. I think when James and I first spoke about this, actually, I think we've actually spoken about this idea of YouPerform since we first met. I think we've both share an incredible passion for performance. I think what's changed since our early days as competitive athletes is what we've recognized is performance is for everybody. It's not just for the elite few. It is actually for everybody. And I think when we came up with the idea of the brand, I mean, to some extent for me, if you take a look at the pack, the 8-lane track that you see, we were born in an era where track and field athletics was the zenith of elite sport. You know, we all know the names of athletes who ran at that time, who threw at that time, who jumped at that time. And it's interesting now to see the resurgence of track and field athletics with the latest world championships. But for me, it's the synergy between athletic performance and actually general population performance. And I think that's really where we first conceived the brand probably 30 years ago and have sort of developed it over that time to the point that it's at now.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I've lost count of how many times we've been at any Olympic track or training track with, you know, the 8 lanes, and we've had the whole squad there running killer sessions. I mean, one of my favourite moments is shooting back to Tallahassee in '94. When we were out there for 3 weeks on an Olympic training camp before the World Championships in '94, when Team GB medal became silver, you know, and that whole concept of we've lived on the track as athletes, as modern pentathletes. So we've taken that concept of the track, and that's what's actually become part of the YouPerform logo. We've taken the sport of modern pentathlon being 5 events, so we've brought it down to a 5 signature ring. But for me, You Perform is, as you say, this is about years and years and years of doing the sport, walking the walk, delivering the results, wanting to share what we've learned with everybody, so everybody can benefit. And now homing our thoughts and our knowledge of many, many years of study and knowledge and education, and actually bringing something to everybody at home that is going to deliver results that they need, and they can rely upon this team here and be part of this family for the products that they need to know. They don't need to do the 30 plus years of learning that we've gone through in our different areas to finally get to this moment in time.
I think the other great thing about the logo, about this 8-lane track is it's measurable, it's quantifiable. You go onto a track and you know how far 200 meters is because it says it on the track. Once round is 400 meters. When you run a time, you know exactly what split you're going, you know exactly what speed you're going. And I think for us, the You Perform brand is actually about proven evidence, about science supporting performance, and a measurable change in your performance. So if you use this product, what you'll be able to do is you will be able to see change. You won't just feel it, you'll be able to measure it. And I think critically around You Perform, what we care about is people actually measuring that change in performance, measuring that change in quality of life. And that really is what the brand value is.
So You Perform is a brand that's being put together to open the doors effectively. We're looking to speak to absolutely everybody who wants to be active out there. From your elite age groupers and even some of your elite athletes and Team GB who are already using our product range. But this is all encompassing. This is the people who are running park run on a Saturday morning and maybe go out for one run during the week and just want to improve their personal best, be that 45 minutes or 40 minutes or whatever the time they're actually achieving. This is about reaching out and saying, hey, we can support you. This is about the people who maybe go to the gym or coming in for New Year's resolutions or just starting to feel the signs of the aging process creep up on them. And they're very aware that they need to do something, and they're looking for a range they can trust. They're looking for a team that have got the education, so they don't have to reach out and do all this learning. But what they're getting is a package, a support mechanism of education and knowledge, and a product effectively that's going to support them throughout their journey, through the gym, through the park run, through the age group triathlon or multisport or whatever they're participating in.
I think the key is that we've coined it as a family. This is not a community. I think it's a family, and the big difference is that we actually care. I mean, we really care about how people perform, and what we want to do is optimize them. We want to optimize their performance, and we've done that because we have spent painstaking years in developing these products to optimize those products for people. And you're absolutely right, whether it's Couch to 5K or whether it's the World Age Group Triathlon Championships, it is for everybody. Everybody has the potential to enhance their performance. And what You Perform is about providing a nutritional platform which will deliver on that. And they are our family. What we want is we want everybody to come and join our family, because what we're going to do as a family is we're going to look after you. We're going to look after everybody in that family, and in fact that family will look after each other. So it is very much a You Perform family, whether you're coming from the couch or whether you're going to World Championships, to optimize your performance. Some of the greatest challenges I've ever worked on are actually with newcomers, people who are very, very new to the environment of physical challenges. And it's interesting, we sometimes coin physical challenges as the marathon or swimming the channel. It's actually, the greatest challenge, I think, is Couch to 5K. It's actually starting out, it's making that first step. And I think if you take a look at Sport Relief and Comic Relief, I've looked after 32 major challenges now. Since 2006, when we swam across the English Channel with David Williams. And what's interesting for me is that you look at the people that have taken on those challenges, the likes of Joe Brand, for example, who walked from Hull to Liverpool 20 miles a day for 7 consecutive days. I mean, an incredible feat of endurance. But this is Joe Brand, somebody who was incredibly new, was absolutely a newcomer to physical challenges, but embraced that physical challenge and got across. The key to that for me is actually the requirements of Joe or of David Williams or of John Bishop et al. Is that the requirements for them is no different to what we'd expect for elite athletes. And I think with You Perform, that's really what we're targeting at. We're targeting across the board, from whether you're an elite athlete or whether you are a newcomer to sport. Actually, nutrition is for everybody. Making sure you get the right nutrition is absolutely crucial to optimize that performance.
I think where you've hit it nail on the head there, we're talking about a functional lifestyle now, and that's where things have changed and evolved. Whether you're somebody who just goes to an aerobics or yoga class once or twice a week, or whether you're like my mum who's in her mid-70s now playing tennis 3 or 4 times a week. We're talking about a functional lifestyle, we're talking about functional fitness, and we're talking about functional nutrition. So what serves the purpose, and what do we want to achieve? How long do we want to live? What we do know is that the population that is aging now is living longer. But with that comes wear and tear of the body, and we need to have something that's functional in our lifestyle, that's convenient, that's quick, that's simple, that ticks the box, has got evidence behind it, and education behind it, but allows us to deliver what we want to do. And whether that's just going and playing tennis, a couple of times a week, or walking the dog, or starting your fitness regime at the beginning of every year and you just want to go from couch to 5K, or push on to a park run. It's that functionality of your lifestyle. So You Perform is literally reaching out to everybody with education, with a product range that's convenient, simple, but functional.